Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Kneon. I am here with Geeky Sparkles.
Hello.
And we're going to talk about The Acolyte again. We're going to talk about it being such a massive hit that we need to do a season 2.
Says the showrunner's wife.
Says the showrunner's wife.
I honestly can tell you, of all the things that I thought we'd be talking about this month, I did not think The Acolyte would be one of them.
No, this show is dead and buried. It was not a huge hit for Disney. Now, weirdly enough, and maybe we are partly to blame for that, but more people did watch The Acolyte than watched Daredevil Born Again. But there was a barrier to entry for Born Again because it was, a follow-up to a Netflix show, and it was also like an R-rated series. So, I mean, it's kind of apples and oranges, but was a very low viewed Star Wars show. And for Star Wars, by Star Wars standards, it was a massive failure. Here's
the thing, too. Like, Andor was very low viewership at the time, too. However, its viewership increased by the end. So it started out low and then it increased and went up by the end. Where The Acolyte did the opposite. It started out with people tuning in to see what the heck it was about. And by the end, the viewership was just garbage. And Disney's already said, we're not doing more.
Yeah, I think with Andor, and they are doing a season 2, what happened was people were so jaded by all the other Star Wars shows, they did not watch Andor. And then when they finally got around to watching it, they're like, hey, this actually isn't too bad. This actually is. In fact, it's on my bucket list. One of these days I'm going to sit down and watch Andor because Rogue One is one of the only Disney projects I've actually liked. I actually thought Rogue One was pretty good. It was good fan fiction, but I'm down with good fan fiction. And if it's half as good as Rogue One, then it's already better than most of the other stuff Disney's done. Anyway, The Acolyte, huge failure, but we're going to talk about how they're trying to get interest, I think, in
No, it's not. 2. It's a massive hit.
Massive hit.
One analytics said so.
To the bottom line, to the spreadsheet. That's what it was.
And the Star Wars holocron says so. So clearly, it's obviously true.
Massive hit. So let's talk about this. Before we get into it any further, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. You'll get a woohoo if you do.
Woohoo!
Yeah, I don't think there's any arguing this. It was a huge failure, and you don't even have to be in the anti-woke camp. I mean, that was just kind of salt in the wound. But the show itself was not highly viewed. It didn't make a lot of sense in the context of Star Wars, and some of it was just outright stupid.
Normies didn't watch it.
Normies didn't watch it.
The majority of people, the silent majority, didn't watch, or they did, and they decided it was not for them. So it's not about wokeness and all that shit. It's just people just didn't want to watch it.
No, and the damage was done. I mean, even if the show had been good, I mean, we're again, going back to Andor, even if the show had been good, there was so much damage done by bad Star Wars on Disney Plus that people just wouldn't have watched it anyway. They're like, I don't want any more Star Wars.
No, not this Star Wars, that's for sure.
So let's talk about it. This has come from a CBR. And they're quoting Collider, and they're all owned by the same company, by the way. Valnet owns all these websites. It's just a different flavor of shit. They're all the same. So I guess we'll start with this one, actually, from Collider. Demand for The Acolyte is sky high.
Oh, I didn't even catch that. So they other ones are running with it, too.
Yes, and they're all on the Valnet network.
Oh, isn't that interesting?
Yeah,
they did this. They did this before, too, when they were doing damage control. I remember.
Mm-hmm. The Acolyte is showing plenty of streaming demand months after the series was canceled by Lucasfilm. According to Parrot Analytics, the story starring Amandla Stenberg is currently listed at scoring more than 20 times the average demand seen in the current streaming landscape. Okay,
bullshit.
I don't know if I believe this.
But it doesn't matter. Alan Bergman already said they aren't doing more.
It's done. It costs too much. Even, again, this is what we talk about, too. Like, we were talking about this with Assassin's Creed Shadows. Even if the game sells well, did it sell well enough to justify the cost?
This isn't the last 30 days. This isn't like overall. The last 30 days. Okay, so here's what's going on. They're just the small minority group is trying desperately to get season 2. They've already been told no. If I were to guess, if I were to bet, because it makes no sense for it suddenly to peak. There's a whole bunch of them deliberately going out there and doing things to try to make it artificially appear as if demand was high. No other reason this would suddenly have demand this far after the fact when no one's even talking about it.
So this okay, so I think the Reylos basically moved on to the Acolyte, the same crowd. But this reminds me of the Netflix She-Ra show where they kept trying to get the hashtag movie or season 6 or whatever trending to get people like, look, guys, it's trending on Twitter. Well, that means jack shit.
No, they get all their alt accounts and everything else and start hitting things to try to make it seem like it was a more demand than there was. And the thing is, they don't care about there's demand now. They cared about when it came out, if there was interest in it then. So I would argue, because it's for the last 30 days, that there is a concerted effort and that some of these people might have been in on it, which is why they're all, because no one else is talking about it. But all of a sudden,
nobody is talking about
sites related to each other are mentioning this blip that just happened to show up. I call bullshit. I call massive bullshit on this.
And this is the only thing that is tracking it, right? Like, you're not seeing it being talked about on social media very much.
No.
The only time it came up, and we actually covered it on Pirates and Princesses, was in relation to Daredevil Born Again, because more people did watch The Acolyte, and that still got canceled. But that was a much more expensive show, and Daredevil's an R-rated thing.
Okay, again, at the beginning. But that dropped off. Daredevil still stayed pretty consistent. I think it's just now starting to have a drop off in viewership, but it wasn't like The Acolyte, which started out one way and then it was constant decline. Andor had the other opposite problem, as I mentioned. They went the other way. They started out slow and got bigger. When you go back to the other article we started out initially on, the Collider one. Or the CBR one, I mean. Yeah, they talk down below. They even bring up that other analytic sites don't see the same thing. So what's going on now is Rebecca Henderson, who is the wife, I mean, I'm pretty sure is the wife of Leslie Headland.
Yeah.
Is like, oh, okay. Suddenly there's a demand for this that no one saw coming in the last 30 days, and she knows all about it and is saying there should be a season 2. Well, how convenient.
Yeah,
seems staged to me.
Yes, and the Star Wars Holocron. Now, I don't remember. My memory is foggy. Again, I've said this before, and it pisses people off, actually. I was surprised in the comments. They were pissed off. I said, we don't follow a lot of inter-YouTuber drama because some of these people we know, some of them we don't know, but mostly we kind of stick to ourselves.
Well, we don't have time either. That's a big problem.
No, we do other stuff aside from this. But I believe some of these accounts, some of these sites or whatever were involved in the dogpiling of Star Wars theory. And again, that goes back to the Acolyte and all this drama going on here. No, they're mad at him because he used to be a huge cheerleader for everything Lucas and he turned,
Now they're all mad about And then, you feel like, how dare he? How dare he? No, this is weird. I call, weirdness in all of it. Last 30 days, suddenly there's a spike, 20% increase. Even on that chart, it was just in the last 30 days. It was way down below, had a huge spike. And just in time for all these outlets to cover it, just in time for her wife to be like, oh my gosh, guys, there's so much demand. It just seems very, it just seems very coordinated to me. But they also, if you go down here, and here comes Star Wars, Holocron trying to talk about it. But they talk about down below that earlier when you went to here, it was canceled. I think it's in this paragraph below. Luminate had the data, and we talked about it several times before. Like, they had charts, and it after being out for I forget how many. It wasn't quite as long as other people had been out. Other shows had been out. It was nowhere near what they were how they were performing within that time frame. And I remember that we talked about it, at length, and that's one of the reasons it got canceled, because it did not have the demand. And now they're trying to make fake demand.
I think everybody's forgot. I mean, this is the thing. It does feel astroturfed because everybody's forgotten this show exists.
I know. Why now? Why now?
Like, if they're going to go watch, honestly, if you're going to go watch Star Wars on Disney Plus, and if it's one of the Disney Plus shows, you're going to watch The Mandalorian. You might watch like Obi-Wan or something. You might watch Andor because the word of mouth on that one's actually been pretty okay. But The Acolyte's so far in the rearview mirror already. I mean, that's all we talk about with Snow White and all this other stuff. Like, there's all this controversy, all this outrage about these, different things Disney's doing, whatever. And then it dissipates, and then everybody forgets it exists 6 months or less.
Right. And then just suddenly all the peers, including her wife, mentioning it. And the thing is, what Disney's going to do is they're going to be like, or Lucasfilm, whoever, they're going to be like, okay, there's a big 20% jump all of a sudden. Why? They're not going to just automatically greenlight it because, in the last 30 days, it went up 20% in demand over everything else. They're going to look and see, well, why did it go up 20% demand more than, and they're going to probably find some concerted, well, in my opinion, they're probably going to find like a concerted effort to boost it. And it's all coordinated because it just feels very coordinated. It doesn't feel organic in any way.
That was like the She-Ra thing. Like they're pushing for season 6. They're pushing for a movie and all that. It's like, oh yeah, because if I'm some executive, right, and I'm sitting there in my office and somebody comes to me, some like 23-year-old comes to me and says, "Oh my God, Mr. Kneon, look at this today on Twitter. Like it's trending that everybody wants a season 6 of Princesses of Power. Okay, so we're gonna do it, right?" And I'd be like, let's see, $500,000 an episode times 13 more episodes. And yeah, I'll get right on that. Here's a check for, $7-8 million minimum,
Yeah.
$10 million, $20 million, $30 million. Yeah.
It doesn't, it's a blip. It's not and if you look at the data overall in the last 30 days that the spike happened, it's not a consistent, thing. It's just a blip. It's not like, it has to be repeatable. And have to stay up for months and months and months for them to be like, okay, maybe. And but they've already said they aren't going to do it, though. They've already said it publicly.
Yeah, so this is just, I think the Reylos just moving on to a new form to do this. But yeah, so Disney's going to be like, we spent $180 million on this show. We got hosed. Oh, let's do more because Collider says that people are watching it. Oh, Leslie Headland's wife, I'm sure she's a completely neutral party. She says,
another Valnet site said.
Another Valnet site says, yeah, let's go cut a check for $180 million and do more of this shit that obviously nobody wants. No, I think right now Star Wars, everything is contingent on the Mandalorian movie. They're going to wait and see how that does, and then they're going to make a decision from there. But the only reason Andor is getting season 2 is they probably already budgeted the season 2 before season 1 started.
They already greenlit that way back when.
Yeah.
They already greenlit it way back. So back when they had money and it wasn't such an issue. So they're definitely trying to make things less expensive. And this thing, even the people who like the show was like, where'd the budget go?
Yeah, it looked very like 90s syndicated sci-fi Star Trek-y. Like, it did not feel like it had the budget that they were claiming. Like the other Star Wars shows looked more expensive. So we're gonna wrap this up.
Yep.
Oh God, I think this is gonna be another one that doesn't end. It's gonna be like, 2 years from now, remember how the alt-right chuds were angry about the Acolyte?
Remember how the people, the little small group of people who actually like the show won't let it go?
Yeah, right. All right, we'll talk to you guys later.
Bye.